In part 3 of the rust repair on the 69 C10 core support, we're going to prime the core support and prime the areas we've already repaired and get ready to make some more repair panels. And hey, don't forget to subscribe and smash the little notification bell so you know when I post new videos. Alright, alright, alright. Before I prime this core support, I'm going to go ahead and run a DAF sander over it. It's not something you have to do, again, but I just like doing it. It just makes me feel good. It does a better job. So I'm going to do it. Definitely not giving it a thorough sanding. I just wanted to hit what I could hit, just because I wanted to. Doesn't take that much time. I'm going to hit the areas I've welded with a little bit of 80 grit right quick. Again, just, well, actually, they're not really going to show. Not till after I get through welding that and it's assembled together. So, maybe I won't do that. Well, maybe I will. This area right here under the pocket, it's gonna be, I can't sand it once I get it welded together, so I can hit that a little bit. I'm still figuring out exactly my priming strategy. I'm going to prime under here. This is where I'm going to welding that piece I made onto. I'm probably not going to prime the rest of the back. I got to do some work over here. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do yet. I still got to cut this intersection out. I'm probably going to wind up cutting this out and fixing the rust on it. So rather than trying to stand it up and paint both sides at the same time, which I've done before, I think I'm going to prime back here where I'm going to be welding my piece in, and then turn on and prime the front first. And just the front, let that dry. Probably get up under here too. Everything basically but back here where I got to work. I'm going to try and prime in the bottom in one stage, and then I'll come back and prime the rest later. I don't want it to rust. You know, it's here in the south. The heat and humidity's coming soon, and it'll start rusting. Bare metal, no time. Even, you know, fingerprints. I have to be real careful about fingerprints because they'll start rusting almost immediately. So I want to get some primer on everything that I can. All right, it's time to prime the core support, or at least the areas that I'm going to prime. First spot I want to prime is back here where I'm going to be painting. That's where, I'm going to weld the panels together. So I want to pre-prime this under where I'm going to be, you know, covering it up. So I'm going to prime that first. Now, I've still got to do a lot of work in here. I'm not going to prime. Probably not going to prime areas that I got to work in, like up under here. Well, yeah, I guess I need to. I can grind it back off when I get to the well. So I'm going to go ahead and get this too. I'm using the flashlight so I can see. You know, the light out here is not the best in my shop. This initial prime, it's easy to miss stuff. Even this black primer, it's still easy to miss a spot or two. This is Epoxy Primer, by the way, in case you're wondering. I like to use this. It really, you know, bites in and seals the metal. For subsequent body work later, which this won't get any filler, but it will get. I'll prime it at least one time, just to, you know, slick it up a little. So I'm just trying to get everything covered really well here. I'm going to let that flash and give it one more coat just to make sure it's coated really well. And the areas down in here that's going to be hard to get to later, I'm hitting them down as well. Like in these corners. I'm hitting them now too. No, I'm not wearing a mask, and I should be. I'm holding my breath. I'm sure somebody will fuss at me. Now, I'm being overly generous for this primer. If it was to happen to run, you know, it'll be in a spot where it's never going to be seen, or I'll sand it down. I want this bare metal. I want this bare metal primed, you know, really well. The rest of that I can get laying down. Let's do the same thing to the other side too, while I got it standing vertical. I'm going to work in here. I know I am, but I'm not going to spray the bottom. I know I'm going to do some work down there, but I'm getting up under the, you know, up the sides. I'm definitely getting that very, you know, I'm running it probably, I don't care. Like you're never going to see it. I want this covered really well. I'm not going to do that because I got to. Okay. I'm not going to work in here. I got to replace that. I'll be doing that later. All right, then give about a minute or two to flash off, and then we'll add some more. For back under here, this area, you know, getting sealed up, never to be accessed again. Like I said, I want to prime this really, really well. My one and only chance to get primer on it before I seal it up, close it up. So I think you understand what I'm trying to say. Don't need to over prime it, because that's, you know, that's not good either. But I do want to prime it really well. Get this seam in here one more time too. Same thing over here. let's lay it down so I can prime. Again, see, I'm wearing gloves. Don't touch, you know, the metal you're going to paint, especially if you've got cleaned off with your bare fingers, oil and bad. Don't do that. So let's lay it down now. Because I want to prime under here next while I have access to it. Be easy to do it now rather than later. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Yeah, sometimes that's help. Yeah, take a look. We're running this one, so I'm going to go in there. Yeah, I'm up here. Back in there. That sounds pretty good. Okay, no, we're running. Take it outside. Alright, again, I'm not worried about the bottom. You know, it's can't get the bottom down. I'm not worried about it because I got to do all that work on there still. So that'll get primed later. If anybody, you know, painting stuff like this is hard. These small, you know, these are not small. These cut up pieces are all the inside and outside. This stuff's not easy. Anybody tells you it is, you've never done it before, or this is wrong. Because it's not easy. Okay, so let's get to priming this. And this front side, I will prime the entire front side and the top. And since there's going to be a lot of primer vapor in the air, I'll go over a mask now. So if you're fussing at me, you can stop. Okay, time for the second coat. This will be just a basic medium wet coat. I'm not going to worry about all the cracks and the crevices. I pretty much got all that. So this will be more like a normal, coat than all the weird. Anyway, you understand. So I changed my plan a bit. I went ahead and primed some of the back side as well. I had enough primer mixed, or have enough primer mixed. So, I got it sitting there. Might as well do it, no problem. A lot of times things change. I got to let this flash one more time and then re-prime the second coat on the back side, and then we'll be done. All right, one more. Alright, so we got it primed up. You really can't see a lot. You can't tell a lot by this, but there it is in primer. Let me grab a light. Here's the back side. Not that you can tell a whole lot. I did not prime down here where I've got to do the work still. Obviously not in the center where I got to cut out. I did prime pretty much all of this side. I'll grind off, here where I've got to re-weld new pieces on. I'll just grind that off. But at least all that's primed in. Top's primed in. Over here is the the piece I made that goes in there, primed. Don't really want to pick it up now, but you can see. I mean, these are areas that I welded and ground, and you know, they look pretty good. They're not horrible at all. And you could, if you were here to see them, you know, in person, you could see a few grinding marks, but all in all, they look really nice. Way better than what we started with, which was just a little piece right here. And there's a little piece I primed there. I got one more thing to do. Check on my electrolysis tank. This is my radiator support bracket, or radiator cut. Today was my last. Let's cut it off. I ran it today one last time. You can see the bubbles. You know, where it was bubbling. It was running. Let's pull it out. It turns black when it's working. That's not black paint. That's actually the metal is turned black. When you rinse it off, it'll look different. Dry it off, and I'll sandblast it, of course. But that's way better than what I started with when I, you know, had it just out of the core support, nothing but rust. So this piece is now done as far as electrolysis goes. Next step is to blast it. I've got these holes. I gotta weld these holes up for sure. See if there's anything. There's pinholes. I don't want to. I have no inclination to try to make this thing from scratch. I'm gonna weld the holes up and let it ride. There we go. So I primed the core support. Here I have drilled my spot weld holes for the bottom side that I'll be priming or welding. And then these are where the spot holes for the other piece are going to be. The copper color you see, yellow maybe, that's copper weld through primer. I try to use weld through primer on where I can. Even though this down here is galvanized, this is not. I don't like to grind off bare metal and leave it. I mean, it's weld through primer. You get the concept. There's a zinc version instead of copper. I've never had good luck with the zinc version. It always spits and pops and doesn't weld good at all. The copper for me does a lot better job, so that's why I switched to the copper. It's a Sim copper weld in a can. They have it in spray cans, and I have used up a couple of spray cans. The problem with the spray cans, you know, when you spray in, you can't control where it goes. Here I take a brush and just daub it on where I want it. This goes longer. This is kind of expensive, so it lasts longer. Plus you don't have overspray that copper, that weld primer everywhere that you don't need it. So that's how I do that. The piece I made is right here, primed of course. Also holes drilled for spot welds. Treated them with the copper prime on the back side. This is the front side where I'll be welding, so I don't need to treat this yet. That'll be done, you know, obviously when I get it welded in and primed. So there's that piece. I think I showed the core support already. So yeah, the core support's primed. Most of it, except I got to do work down here still. Got to figure out how I'm going to rework this corner. But the core support itself, you know, it's all in primer. So that's where we are today. About to weld this lower piece on and then move to the center section. So I have it clamped up, ready to weld. Clamps, and more clamps. Weld up all the spot welds. So here we go. I do have a piece of 2x2 1/4-inch wall tubing clamped to the front of the core support to keep it straight where you can't see it. I'll try to show it when I roll it back over. That's to keep the core support from, you know, from bowing from doing this. And it definitely has a bow in it. And it will until I get it all welded back together, completed and finished. So that just keeps it straight while I'm welding, which, you know, it's a good thing to do, although it won't stay flat, straight, permanently until it's all welded back together, all the entire bottom. Alright, let's start doing some welding. The trick here is just to move around. You know, you don't want to weld too much in one spot. Even though it's a thick metal, it's 16 gauge, it can still warp and move on you. So it's best to try to avoid that at all costs, obviously. And I use clamps. Wherever I'm welding, I'll generally try to put a clamp to, you know, to make sure we're clamped well. Can't always do it, but I try to do it when I can. Alright, here we go. If I had the ground, it would work better. I weld up my spot weld holes from the edges in versus the center out. I feel like you just get a better job that way. Better weld joint connection, whatever word you want to use. The trick with a good spot weld, even though this is not a real spot weld, plenty of heat, you get good weld penetration on your parent metal that you're welding to. These are 5/16 holes, and 1/4 inch can be appropriate too, maybe for lighter gauge metals. But for thicker stuff, bigger stuff, stronger welds, I generally try to use 5/16. Just to give you better weld, better area to weld in. That 1/4 inch hole can weld up real fast. And if you get a little bit off on your weld and don't quite get the penetration or the weld be where you want it, you weld it up so fast you don't have a second chance to go back and redo it. Where it's 5/16, because I just like the 5/16 holes, I really do. A lot better. I need one more clamp. There's an old expression, you can never have enough clamps, and I agree with that message. Also going to use spot the bottom base vertical. Anybody says whether they'll work, you go out. That's one I'll grab it. Doesn't make it, I'm careful before we do something like that. Just, just one of those things. Not going. That's how you spot the wheel. Okay, follow. Don't come up. Here we go. Take a little bit. All right, see where we go. Yeah, I'm trying. It's always fun to do. Not. I said I would show that piece of tubing. Let me roll this thing up. Uh-oh, camera's gonna move. Kind of hard to see, but here's the 2x2 tubing I was talking about. There's not a lot of light back here. Clamped all the way across. I had a clamp in the center I just took off, but it's clamped to the front. Like I said, to pull the bow out. And when I unclamp it, it's gonna bow right back. And it won't stay in place for good until I get everything in here fixed, all welded together all the way across. Then it should stay in place. I'll grind a few welds with the camera on, just to let you see how I do it, and then stop the camera and get the rest of it done. Some may be wondering why I do a lot of my grinding with the little 2-inch, 3-inch angle grinder. I've been using angle grinders to grind welds and stuff since my collision repair days, many years ago. They're easy to maneuver. They get around in tight places. I've got a 5-inch grinder that I use when I need to. I just like doing it like this. I just like doing it. They're not as hard to wield them, and they don't make as much of a mess as far as grinding on everything else that you don't want to grind on. Just move the camera, move the thing. Try to get some more light. What I'm using now is 36 to knock down most of the weld puddle, and I'll take a piece of 60 to final grind it with. Just makes a better job. And sparks are a thing. you can see I will use the 5-inch grinder on the bottom since I've got plenty of room to work here. I'm not jammed up in any corners or anything. Probably also noticed I'm using air grinders instead of electric ones. All the electric ones I have and I've ever seen are not variable speed. The air ones I can adjust the speed. That's what I like to do. Where the electric grinder is wide open, that's it just chews up everything. It's too caveman for me. I keep using that word. That describes it pretty well. I like the variable speed of the other air grinders. It does a lot better job for me. I got one more. Okay, we're all done. We grind it on that. Yes, I put a blanket on the floor to protect my primer. Sorry, I did. That primer is only a day old. It's still pretty soft. I didn't want to scratch it up. You think, what's wrong with that? But here we are after welding. You can see the penetration from the bottom side of the spot. The plugs from the bottom. The plugs from the top, you can see those. But that's welded on. Next, like I've been saying, I got to cut this center section out. Sorry. Next, I got to cut this center section out. Work on that. Figure this out, as I've been saying. I'll show you the bottom. There's the bottom, nicely ground. That big 5-inch grinder does do a nice job on big flat panels. There's no doubt about it. It definitely has a place for it. Here's where I had to weld up with some rust holes. This hole, the nut you see there, is for the grill, I believe. I wanted to keep it in place versus cutting it out just to keep that place, you know, located. So I'm going to work around that. That's why I welded the rust holes up there. When I get that sandblasted and patched everything around it, it'll be just fine. And that nut will never get cut out, which is how I wanted to handle it. Next, we're going to weld up this piece up here on top.
Alright, that's it for part 3. Don't forget to keep an eye out for part 4. We'll be making some more repair panels and getting them welded in. And don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to smash the little notification button. I hope you're enjoying what you're seeing. I hope you like it. I hope you stick around and come back for more. And I appreciate it, and catch you on the flip side.